I'll start by saying this is all true. I've changed the location names, etc., in order to protect anyone stupid enough to go looking for this place. I grew up in the greater metropolitan area of New York, New Jersey, and in one town we moved to, we lived on a dead-end street. Down the middle of the road were the town limits, making across the street another town altogether. The area across the street was zoned for commercial use, so instead of houses, we had a view of 3 factories, a car mechanic, and a used car lot. Most afternoons after school, I'd hang out outside my house with a couple of friends, either riding bikes or kicking a ball around. One day, my friend JC kicked our ball into the bushes outside the sewing factory, directly across from my house. It was a nearly dilapidated brick building, with darkened windows and a steel door that creaked loudly each morning when employees would arrive to start their shifts. We never saw the employees, but would hear the door in the pre-dawn hours, and figured it was when they'd arrive. From outside, you could often hear the loud sounds of sewing machines, the banging of tools, and the occasional scream and grunt. It was coupled with puffs of hot steam plumping non-stop into the air at all hours of the day and night, and a stale smell that always reminded me of standing sewer water. None of us wanted to venture into the overgrown bushes, but after losing the best of 3 rounds of rock, paper, scissors, I find myself begrudgingly digging through the stinging nettles and what I imagined was poison oak to find our ball had landed squarely on the rotting carcass of an animal. I scrambled back, cussing up a storm. My friends ran over, only to stumble back from the rotten stench of decay that wafted up into the air. The commotion resulted in 2 things. First, the noise from the factory stopped. For the first time in ever, the endless sound just stopped. Secondly, the heavy steel door opened slowly in front of us. Hot steam escaped into the late afternoon air, and from inside, there stepped a tall man. I don't know what we expected, but it wasn't what we saw. He was a white man with curly black hair in a half mullet, high-waisted jeans, and a crisp white overstarched shirt and shiny black dress shoes. He didn't look like anyone we'd see in our neighborhood, let alone any factory foreman we'd ever seen. We lived in a very diverse working-class neighborhood, and this guy looked like someone straight out of a Norman Rockwell painting. "Well, hello, young people," he said, cocking his head to the side as he looked down on us. His voice was nasally and saccharine, and his cadence was unlike anything I'd ever heard. It made listening to what he was saying difficult. He was clean-shaven, and his skin was so white it showed almost every blue vein in his forearms and face. "Oh, I see. You lost your ball. Let me help you," he said, his sing-song cadence almost lulling me into a false sense of safety. It was only JC tugging on me to pull me up and away that broke the momentary spell. We didn't wait for the ball, instead hopping on our bikes and riding away. Looking back, I saw him standing at the center of the road watching us, ball in hand. I couldn't stay away forever, and as the sun set, I rode back alone. There on my front step was a brand new soccer ball with a small note attached. "Your other ball had something on it, your neighbor Steve." I dropped my bike onto the floor and looked at the note as well as the new ball. While very nice and a lot better than my old one, I still didn't want it. Something about Steve gave me the creeps, and my grandmother had taught me that when the creeps kick in, we listen. It was only a few days later that I discovered just why I was right to have listened to my grandmother. It was during a game of touch football that our friend Carlos found himself atop a pile of garbage bags on the curb of the sewing factory. Sanitation had gone on strike, and garbage pickup was disrupted. Garbage that would have previously been picked up in the early dawn hours was now sitting, piled haphazardly, on the curb. Our taunts of Carlos lasted only until we noticed the dark, vicious fluid that seeped from the bags under Carlos. "Oh, that's nasty," I can remember one of the girls saying as we moved closer to see what it was. It was then we got hit with a smell. Some gagged, the rest watched onto the street. I ran up into my house and called my mother. She called the cops, and soon they closed down the street and got a warrant to search the factory. Inside, they found coolers filled with unidentifiable cuts of meat, a wall covered in wigs made with human hair, and tanned skins being made into brand name purses and wallets. We watched as grown cops needed smelling salts, some looking green as they stumbled out of the factory, covering their mouths. In the office, they found file folders full of employee paperwork that matched up with missing persons reports going back years. My dad told us most had been undocumented and likely not to be noticed if they went missing. I remember crying for hours with my mum and others that gathered at the candle-lit vigil for all those lost. It was only after the police tape was gone, and that the fervour was forgotten, that I once again saw our neighbour Steve, standing in the middle of the road, looking up to my window, my soccer ball in hand as he waved.